Well, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, everybody. This is Paul talking, just doing one more quick audio check. I know people already did it before, but I just had to do a couple little modifications. If you can hear me, just please type a Y or a yes or hello or anything in that little question box. That would be really helpful for me. Excellent. Thank you again, Cynthia, Bill. Hi. Thank you so much. Good. Glad it's working. My name is Paul Siegel. I am the president of Candlecharts.com and very excited to be here in this very brief, we're calling an open house session, just because we have a great Labor Day promotion going on. We sent out an email earlier today with details on that. So the purpose of this session here right now is to review that, answer any questions that you have here, and also I want to go over a trade example that one of our students just recently did, based on a trading strategy that I've been using for a long time. And the student, who has a lot of our education, did the trade, made some profits, and sent it in to me so that we could discuss it. And there's a lot of cool things about it, so I wanted to bring that up. So I'm going to be showing that to you here in just a couple of minutes. But before we do that, I just have to make sure that our compliance and our legal team is kept happy as always by us showing you the risk disclosure. You can certainly read the whole thing if you'd like at candlecharts.com/disclosure, basically telling you that there are risks involved in trading, but if there were no risk, there wouldn't be no potential reward as well. So just be sure that you understand that there is certainly risk involved in trading. Our job here is to help reduce that risk as much as we possibly can. So with that, I'd like to just quickly go over this promotion that we have going on, because we had so many questions that came in today, great questions. And actually, I was just talking right before I came on here with one of our chat agents, Kyle, who I think he told me he did about 15 different chat sessions this afternoon with different potential students that had a lot of questions about either the promotion or whatever. And he has a great line that he uses, that questions just shorten the learning curve. And when the learning curve is shortened, you get to the good stuff quicker. So I love that about when Kyle does that with checks or whenever he's trading or anything like that. So if you do have questions, please type those in. I'd be more than happy to do that. If you don't feel like doing that here, you can certainly email me directly, paul@candlecharts.com. Okay, so let's go over this promo. I'm just going to take a couple minutes. We will make sure that you have the link to the promotion if you don't already have it. Essentially, it started today. It is our Labor Day promotion. You can save 20% instantly on almost any product that we have inside of candlechartsacademy.com. Now, above on the link that we sent out, there is, if you click on this play button up here, you would see a video that I did just showing you how to kind of navigate around Candlecharts Academy. A lot of people don't realize that if you scroll down after you log in, you'll see our whole library of all kinds of different things. So just make sure that you know how to do that. You do get 20% off if you use that coupon code HOLIDAY when you're checking out and you're making your payment. We also have a special promo on My Candle Charts. My Candle Charts does not need a coupon code. It already has it built in. It's a different system, so you don't need a coupon code. You can learn all about our membership site at mycandlecharts.com by clicking right there where it says click here now about My Candle Charts. Now, on top of the extra savings that you get on those specific products, we also have additional bonuses. So if you purchase items of $500 or more during this promotion, you get to choose either our quick reference poster or our candlestick companion. We would ship you one of those two items, your choice, if you purchase $500 or more of product between today and Labor Day. Now, if you purchase $1,000 or more, we will ship you both the poster and the companion. These are both great resources to have next to you while trading. The poster, I have one hanging up on my wall. The companion, it's sitting on my desk. So they go over the candle patterns, what they are, the nuances about them, the psychology about them, everything that you want to know in the heat of the moment of making a trade. Okay, now if you're not sure which product is right for you, you don't know exactly what should be my next step or anything along those lines, well, you have your options. You can either uh, email me directly. Again, my email is paul@candlecharts.com. You can do by clicking this orange button here on your screen. You would be able to do a live chat with one of our chat agents. Realize all of our chat agents are traders. We only hire chat agents that are traders and people that are extremely knowledgeable about candles. So you could do that. Or if you're not sure still, you can click right here where you would fill out a little form. That form comes into our team, and then somebody on our team gets back to you with recommendations as to what programs and products, services would be a great fit for your next step in realizing the profits. So promotion's currently going on. We wanted to get this out before Labor Day. We do know a lot of people travel over the Labor Day holiday, at least here in the United States. I know speaking with Brian on our team, one of our NISM certified trainers who lives in London, he was telling me about the bank holiday weekend that they just had over there in London last week. So we wanted to take advantage of holiday season right now. So use that coupon code HOLIDAY. Again, type in those questions. I do see a couple questions coming in right now. So if you want to type those in, be more than happy. The question is, can I get both the poster and the quick reference guide, the companion? Yeah, you just have to purchase $1,000 or more. And yes, we would ship that to you anywhere, wherever you happen to be. That's included. You don't have to pay anything more for shipping of those two products. These are actual physical items, where these programs right here inside of Candlecharts Academy or at my Candlecharts, those are all streaming video and online programs. So we would not be shipping you anything over on those. But if you did purchase those plateaus of 500 or 1,000, we do ship you those, and we would be reaching out to get your shipping address and things like that. Okay, so what I do want to do is I want to bring up this trade example, and just a real quick brief summary of what the bouncing ball trade setup is. I've been doing this for about 13 years myself, and it all came to me when I was actually at a seminar that Steve was giving 13 years ago. He said something that kind of stuck out to me. I wrote it down in my notes because I am a trader myself. I've been trading for 20, 21 years now. And he said something 13 years ago. I wrote it down. I was flying home from the seminar, and unfortunately at that time, but probably one of the best things that ever happened to me, was there was a snow delay. So we circled in the airplane over the airport coming back in, and I just said, okay, pilot came on and said we're going to be about 45 minutes delayed. So I took out my notebook. I just started reading things because I wanted to make money trading. And Steve mentioned that the hammer, just to review for everybody, a hammer is has to follow a downtrend, and it's this right here. Let me get a pointer so everybody can see it. But right here on your screen, this right here is a hammer. Okay. Hopefully everybody can see that big red dot moving. I'm just putting it right over that hammer. And it would be great for me to know if anybody out there can see that red dot. I just want to make sure, confirm that you can see it. I know I can see it on my screen, but if you can see that big red dot moving over the hammer, if you could just type yes, or I see it, or anything. Excellent, good, thank you so much. I can see a couple people popping that in. So what you see on your screen right here is the NISM candle scanning software. This happens to be on the Trade Navigator platform. It does work on a few. I'd be more than happy to answer questions on that. But a hammer essentially is a small real body near the top of the candle right here with a long lower shadow. The lower shadow has to be at least 2 times the length of the real body. Now this is not a strict criteria hammer. And for those of you advanced students in here, you would know why, but there is an upper shadow. A strict criteria hammer would have no upper shadow, but because this has a upper shadow right there, right at the top of the candle, this is a standard criteria hammer. Okay, the reason I bring that up is just because there are two levels of hammers, strict and standard. Strict is going to give you a more reliable candle signal. It's going to be truly the absolute definition of what a hammer should be. But this again is still defined as a hammer, just not quite strict. Okay, so I want to make sure that's clear. Now, a hammer again has to follow a downtrend. A hammer is what Steve refers to it as hammering out a base. And what Steve said in that seminar about 13 years ago was that the low of the hammer should become support. And it's really simple. He then went on and said something that probably helped create the rest of my trading career. He said that a hammer will usually have a retest. Okay, so what I did was I spent probably a month just back testing. Do hammers really get retests? Do they really come back down? And from my trading and my back testing and my everything that I did on this is that no, it's not going to retest every single time. Definitely not. But when it does, it's a beautiful thing. So let me show you what I mean. Here's the hammer. Okay, the low of the hammer becomes your support line. Notice where we are currently. Okay, now what I want to do, now obviously when this hammer happens, I don't know all of these candles in the future that are going to happen. I don't know that. I only know from the hammer and back. So what I like to do, again, this is a daily chart. I like to take this and draw the line back. Okay, the reason for that, I want to see how strong the support line is. Now, again, if you have questions, please type those in. I'd be happy to answer those. So because I don't see anything here on the daily, right, I can scroll back and we happen to get more candles. But what I want to do is I want to switch to a weekly chart here. Okay, I'm going to move back forward. This is where we are, where I just switched it to a weekly chart. And if you scroll back, you'll see this was a support line back here in April of this year. Now, if I want to go back even further, notice what we have. Okay, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to switch over to a little highlighter and I'm just going to show you a couple points. And if you see what I see here, type it in. Anybody see where I just highlighted in yellow? I know I have some advanced students out there. There you go. Thank you, Alan and Bill. We had resistance. Multiple tested resistance. We went back to 2018. We had resistance. We had resistance. Again, this is a weekly chart. Okay? Philip, good point. Reverse polarity. Now, Steve calls this a change of polarity, right? This was resistance. Now, what is the same line? What is this now? Not resistance anymore, that same line. This line is now support. There you go. Got a bunch of people typing in support. So I'm going to switch out of the yellow highlighter. I'm going to actually erase those to get rid of that. I'm going to go back to normal. I want to now go back to my daily chart. Okay. So what did we just find out? Well, we found out, again, this date was August 7th, so just a few weeks ago. At the time, we did not know how strong that support line was. Okay, we didn't know without looking back and finding clues and doing other things. By switching on the daily chart and drawing the line backwards into time, I found out that we didn't have any real support right there. I mean, yeah, we tested it here at the end of May, but we had to go back far enough on a daily that I even switched it to a weekly to realize that this line was significantly strong. Right? It was resistance. It became support. So here's the hammer. What I like to do in my retest is that the bottom half of the shadow of the hammer is what I like to call my buying zone. Meaning, if the hammer happens, why I call it a bouncing ball, right? It comes down, it bounces, it comes up, it retests, and we bounce again. I don't want to waste time thinking, oh man, I missed the trade right here. Okay, and I'm going to remove that yellow highlighting again just because I want it to be simple and easy to follow. Meaning I don't buy on the initial hammer. Okay, I wait for the ball to bounce up, come back, retest, and bounce again. Again, if you have questions, please type those in. This is a simple strategy. I've been using it for 13 years. It works beautifully well. And I'll show you a couple other examples of how you can use it if it doesn't work the way I'm showing you right now. So the retest would happen inside of the buying zone, which again is the lower half of the shadow right here in my buying zone. At this point, what I do is I have a price alert from the software. Bounce alert me to the idea that we got into this price category. At that point, for me to enter, what am I looking for? I'll tell you exactly what I'm looking for. I am looking for an entry point in the buying zone, but I switched then down to an intraday chart, meaning I'll look at an hourly or even down to a 15-minute chart, and I will look for a bullish signal in the buying zone. Now, why would I do that? Why am I looking specifically for an entry point in the buying zone with a bullish signal? Anybody? By all means, type these in. I want to make sure that things are making sense here because I've been doing this and it was like an absolute gift when I really realized this again. So and I'm going to get to, I just saw a bunch of questions just pop in, and I'll get to those in a second. What I'm looking for my entry is exactly what anybody should be looking for if you're going long. You want a limited risk. Where would be my risk? Where would be my stop point? My stop would be just underneath this horizontal blue line, right? It's really simple. The entry point, the blue line, call it 75.40. Okay, 75.44. My stop point would be just below that. Where is my target if I'm going long in the buying zone? And I'll get to your questions in a couple seconds here. If I enter here, my risk is down here. My target would be recent highs. So if I'm down here, my recent highs would be up in this area. So my risk would be just pennies. Great job, Philip. My target would be recent highs. Now, I also like using Bollinger Bands on my charts, but specifically this midpoint line of the Bollinger Bands. That moving average that goes right in the middle of the Bollinger Bands. Look what we touched before we came back down into my buying zone. Okay? We touched that line. This happens very frequently that we get to that midpoint line of the Bollinger Bands. Now, let me explain a couple of things. How do I determine the buying zone, Alan? My buying zone is the lower half of the shadow of the hammer. That is my buying zone. Why do I do that? I want the smallest risk possible, meaning I want to get in down here. Okay? I don't want to get in after the hammer because the hammer, part of the move already happened. I don't want to get in up here. I want to get in down here. Well, on the hammer, I missed the move already. But what am I doing? I'm waiting for it to get back into that buying zone. Okay? And that's really that simple. Yeah, Alan says, nice. I agree. This works over and over again. Now, a couple of things the nuances that I want to get into here. And again, please, if you have questions, type those in. I will certainly get to them. The nuances here is the hammer has to follow a downtrend. So somewhere in this downtrend, I am going to find my target, my initial target. Now, my first reaction was, here's a falling window, right? It happened a couple candles before the hammer. I had a downtrend, falling window. At the hammer, if I was to get in at the hammer, where would be my target? My target would be right here to the hammer. So if I got in here, at the top of the hammer at the end of that day, I would be risking to the bottom of the hammer with a potential reward just here to the window. Now, why did I feel really good about this entry point down in here? Somebody? Anybody want to tell me? Why did I feel really good about entering in the buying zone here? Yes, Igor. Very low risk, very good reward ratio. The other thing that made me exactly thrilled is that this falling window that happened here was closed when that first candle after the hammer closed above that falling window. That means that that was not my initial target anymore. So all that did was it raised my reward up into this line. It reduced my risk because I was entering in the buying zone, a stop out point just below that line, a reward up to the high here, which would have been this falling line. Now, what was the one thing that was concerning me a bit? That this line was actually coming down, right? However, an entry of 75.50 with a target up to 79, right? That's a potential gain of $3.50 with a risk of about 50 cents. So $3.50 reward, 50-cent risk. That is a 7-to-1 ratio. Does everybody catch that math I just did? A 7-to-1 ratio is average for my bouncing ball trade setups. I hope that makes sense. Now, it gets even better when you do an options trade. Okay? Now, this stock is in the stock price is about 70-ish. So you can certainly, instead of buying the stock outright, you can do this as an option setup. Okay? It's really quite simple, really very easy. This is called the bouncing ball trade setup. I've been doing it for 13 years. I showed this at a seminar probably about a year ago. One of the students that was there uses the candle scanning software to scan the markets to find stocks that have a hammer on a daily chart. He found this. He sent it to me. He said, this is a trade that I did. Can this work in this situation? And absolutely, it can work. And the great thing is it's going to have very limited risk with typically a very good reward. Cynthia's question, is it applicable to Forex? Absolutely. I've done this on the pound dollar probably 20 times in the last few years. Now, the other question that just came in, does this work on other time frames? Absolutely it does. I like being a swing trader myself. So I like finding hammers on the daily chart. But we do have students that have learned this and used it and modified it, that they look at the 4-hour chart or the hourly chart to find hammers. They then use that hammer for creating the bouncing ball trade setup. Okay, Sharad, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. The buying zone is the middle of support and half the shadow or half of the whole candle. My buying zone is the lower half of the shadow, okay? So it's the length of the shadow divided by 2, if that makes sense. So I do not include the real body. I just use the lower half of the shadow itself. Does that make sense, Sharad? I hope A, I pronounced your name right, and B, I answered that question. Okay, good. So here's a couple of things to think about. You know, one, the key word in this trade I like to use is patience, because you have to wait for the retest, okay, for this to truly work. So the retest can take sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 candles after the initial hammer, okay? After the initial hammer, most of the time, I'm waiting 3, 4, 5, 6 candles after the initial hammer for it to fall back into the buying zone, okay? If it doesn't, I'll put it to you this way. If it doesn't come back into that buying zone, if it just took off, let's say hypothetically that from here after the initial hammer, it just went straight up. And it didn't come back down into that buying zone, and I missed the move. Oh well. That's how I look at it. There are plenty of other candidates, okay, on any given day. On any given day, when I do my scan, look, this just did the scan. It just finished. There are 43 stocks that fit the criteria inside the S&P 500 in the last 8 days. 43. That means that you can go through that list of 43 and find these setups. What do you need to know? Well, you can certainly do this by hand, and you can look at any chart you want. I use the candle scanner to find those hammers for me. Okay, I use the software to find me a price alert when I get back into the buying zone, so I do not need to sit there staring at the screen all day long. Now, if it doesn't work, I showed you the one example of it just goes straight up and you missed it. I look at it like the waves of the ocean. If you missed one wave, there's another one coming behind it. Okay? Now, what if you get a close below that hammer? What if this long black candle here on August 14th actually closed below? Well, the hammer is now negated. That is no longer a support line. It is now a resistance line, and you can trade accordingly. We do have some people that use this. If this candle closed below that line, they now use that to enter a short trade. Maybe they're buying a put. Maybe they're shorting it. Maybe in Forex, they're selling it instead of buying it, things like that. Okay, but as soon as that's broken, this line is no longer support. Now notice, where did we get down to? We retested, boom. We retested, boom. Now there's a couple reasons why I will not enter right now, even though we did get right back in there. We have a descending line. We have lower highs coming down. This candle was pretty strong today. There's multiple reasons why I wouldn't enter along here. However, if we get a bullish signal here, I potentially could get in, but now my reward is a little bit less. My risk, I am right there on the line. That's the only reason why I would consider it. Okay, Cynthia's question, when I'm looking at the shadow buying area, are you actually doing math to determine your buying area, or are you just eyeballing the length? I typically, Cynthia, will do the math, and I would draw that line in. But typically when you eyeball it, you're going to be within a couple of cents. If you're looking at a really expensive stock, or a really, like Cynthia, you brought up Forex, if you're looking at something with 4 decimal places and you want to be accurate, by all means, measure it out, draw that line. But typically, on a stock like this, where I drew that line right now is probably within a couple of cents either way. So I just did that line right now for purposes of saving a little time, but if you want to be accurate, by all means, measure it out, Cynthia. Okay. Question is it a triple bottom? Absolutely. At the same point, if that's only going to confirm everything that I've just gone over in the bouncing ball, by all means, do it. Philip, question about the Bollinger Band. Yep, right here, the moving average is the 18 and the 2 in the Bollinger Bands. This is just standard criteria. I got that from actually having lunch one day with John Bollinger when he was telling me about how he uses Bollinger Bands. So I am spoiled. I work for Steve Nissen. If I have a candle question, I talk to Steve. If I have a Bollinger Band question, I'm lucky enough where I can, go call Mr. Bollinger and figure things out. This trade setup is simple. The tools needed, you need to have patience. I tell this to people. Some people think I'm crazy for waiting 3, 4, 5 candles later. Doesn't mean you have to use it on a daily. You can certainly use it on an hourly or 4-hour chart. I don't typically do that. I have done it before and it has worked out very well. But I will tell you, at some point, either later tonight or early tomorrow morning, I will be going through that list of 43 items, 43 symbols right here that fit the criteria inside the S&P 500. I have another scan set up for the NASDAQ 100. I have another scan set up for Forex pairs because they all act very similarly. Okay, so again, I call it the bouncing ball. You can do this easily. There are certainly other nuances involved. This trader did very well. They actually bought calls right here. They sold them when they touched that line. They made a profit. They moved on to the next trade. And they emailed me and we talked about a few different things to think about on this chart. But just think about this. They entered with a 7-to-1 reward to risk ratio. Okay, 7-to-1. And if that doesn't get you a little bit excited about trading, and if that doesn't provide some level of confidence in order to place that trade, whether you're buying the stock or if you're going long in Forex, or if you're buying an option strategy that would be involved, you don't necessarily need huge moves. You just want to keep that risk low. You want to have a high potential reward, and then you need to be flexible. If things don't work the right way, you need to have an exit strategy in place. Cynthia's comment, oh my God, mind blown. This is awesome. Would it be possible to watch this on replay? I am recording the session, Cynthia. Hopefully it comes out. But by all means, if you have questions or if you want to go over an example, let me know. I'd be more than happy to do it, because I'll tell you, there have been times when students that have seen me do this before come back to me and say, hey, what do you think of this setup? And I'm looking at it with them and I say, you know what, I'm entering it myself, because I took a couple extra seconds to take a look at it. What do I love in my trading? I love high reward, low risk setups that are repeatable, that you can find easily. The software can do that for you over and over and over again. And Igor says he likes it a lot and will definitely try it out. Now, I will tell you, what I just showed you is something I've been working on for 13 years. And it's something because Steve said something in one seminar. If you pick up one idea, if you just get one concept, it can make a huge, dramatic difference in your trading. People ask me all the time, what was the biggest difference in your trading? Well, obviously, I've been working for Steve for going on 13 years now. And that made obviously a huge impact. This is one example that I just did. I did it myself as well as a student bringing it to me. It's like a proud parent feeling when a student comes back and says, hey, what do you think of this setup? Now, is it perfect? No. No trade is ever exactly perfect. If you keep that in mind, a lot of people put trades up on pedestals and they won't take a trade because it's not absolutely perfect. I've never seen an absolutely perfect trade, but take profits and enjoy it. This is a great time if you have questions about that bouncing ball setup right now. If you have to type those in, I'd be more than happy to answer those. Did just get a couple more questions about the promo. One question is, does the promo work on the candle scanning software? Absolutely it does. Okay, so you can go into the library of candlechartsacademy.com. You can scroll through all of the programs and all of those other things, and you can find out the different softwares and education and all the other kind of good stuff, and use that coupon code HOLIDAY to take the 20% off. And then on top of that, once you get to these plateaus of 500 or 1,000, we throw in these great bonuses that you can have hanging near your desk. The companion could fit in a folder. You could take it with you. I love it. We had a student that says they commuted to work every day on the train. They took the companion and they just studied the candle patterns while they were sitting on the train. They took, made good use of their time. So this is a great special going on. It's only going on for the next week or so. And we did it specifically today because, again, we know a lot of people travel. We do know that the U.S. Stock market is closed on Monday, so we want to give people the opportunity to take full advantage of these great promotions. A couple of questions just popped up. Could you show the trigger in the lower time frame and buying zone? I can get to that. I just want to answer a couple more questions, and then I'll pull back that chart. Do I have a preference, NinjaTrader or Trade Navigator, Igor? I use both. It just so happens that this computer that I'm using right now, I have the Trade Navigator. I also have the NinjaTrader set up on it. I just happen to pull up the Trade Navigator, and I'll show you a couple reasons why I do this on Trade Navigator. First, I've been using Trade Navigator a little bit longer, so I'm a little bit more used to it. Even though I've been using NinjaTrader for like 9 or 10 years, I'm very used to that as well. I tend to use Trade Navigator a little bit more often right now just because I don't know if you can see right here, the D and the E is very light. I don't know if it comes out very well, but the D is for dividends and the E is for earnings. It just kind of is another reinforcement. Not that I'm paying attention to the earnings reports or anything like that, but I know when an earnings report is coming out. So I knew up here, not that I was necessarily looking at this chart, I knew up here that there was earnings report coming out. And look what happened. We had a nice big down day. But notice what happened. It bounced off the lower Bollinger Band. Okay. Certain stocks have a tendency of bouncing off of Bollinger Bands. And that's something that we typically I like to combine. I know Steve does as well, combine candles with Bollinger Bands. It's a great combo. Igor, I hope that answered your question. You can use either one. It truly doesn't matter. They do the exact same thing. You can find strict criteria hammer. You can find standard criteria hammer, as well as the 27 other candle patterns. Okay. Hakeem's question, can I configure my candle highlighter to find the bouncing ball? Now, we get this question often. We have two different levels of our software. One's called Nissen Candle Highlighter, and our higher level software called Nissen Candle Scanner. What you're seeing here on the screen is called the Nissen Candle Scanner. Again, this is our flagship software because it can scan. So meaning you can only get this list from a scan on the Nissen Candle Scanner. We have our lower version called Nissen Candle Highlighter. The highlighter will highlight the candle patterns. It will identify this as a hammer, but it would not scan the markets for you to find hammers, if that makes sense. So I hope, Hakeem, that answers that question. But again, I could talk about the bouncing ball trade setup forever, and the multiple ways to continue to use it even after the initial trade. Okay, so there's multiple ways to do it. And again, the strength of the support is very critical. So that's why I go back in time to find out how strong that support line was. If you just looked at this chart, you would say, oh, look at this line. It's really not that strong. I mean, yeah, it's kind of close to this, but you need to go back in time to find out how strong support is. The stronger it is, guess what? The firmer the bounce will be. Okay? So I like getting clues. So notice, what did I do? I used the daily chart to find the hammer. I used the candle scanner to find that hammer. I went back on the weekly chart to find support. And if I needed to, I would have gone back to a monthly chart, go back as far as needed. And then I also used an intraday chart for my actual entry point. Okay, so I would have switched into this day. Notice the lower shadow on this daily chart. That lower shadow on a daily chart means that at some point in intraday, there was a bullish candle signal. Okay, so this is one simple trade setup. People tell me all the time, well, it doesn't work for me. I'm not a patient person. I don't have time to wait. I can't do it. Well, here's the great thing. I just want to give one last point about the bouncing ball. Remember I said I look for the retest in the buying zone, which is typically between session 3 and session 8 after the initial hammer. Well, I don't look at just hammers that happen today and then wait 8 days from today. I go back 8 days. If a hammer happened 8 days ago, it might be in the buying zone today, right? So people tell me, oh, you have to be patient, you have to wait. Well, every day there's another list of items that fit your criteria that will fill you for tomorrow. Okay, I do hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, type it in, email me, and I'd be more than happy to go over that again. So there's a lot of information I just gave you about that one simple trade setup that did very well. Okay, it was a very successful trade. It only moved up a few dollars, and people are thinking, well, why are you getting so excited about a few dollar move? Well, again, very low risk, Very good reward, especially when you jump into the options trade. And we go over things like this inside of my candle charts, inside of strategy sessions, inside of daily market recaps, inside of special topic sessions, things like that. So there's a lot of different programs and services that would allow you to get to the point of doing things like that. Now, just to give you a quick idea, when I showed the bouncing ball, we had students that were modifying that to do the opposite. They were looking for shooting stars so they could just do just the opposite. And somebody's mind right now just said, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. Let me look at that now. Other people are looking at other setups and they're using our software to find great setups. Alan, great question. So Alan's question is, so you scan with Trade Navigator and trade with another platform? Yes, yes, and yes. Okay, so let me try to paint the picture of what I do and what I've been doing for a long time. I have a 2-monitor trading system, okay? 1 computer, 2 monitors. I used to have multiple monitors, but I said, you know what, it's too much, I don't need it, I need 2. On monitor 1, which is the monitor I look at on my left, I have my candle scanner, okay? That's where I'm scanning. I have multiple scans, like I said before, not just for the bouncing ball, but I have multiple other scans that I do that I've been looking for years as well. Bouncing ball just happens to be one of my favorites. I do all of that. On monitor 2, which is the monitor on my right when I'm looking at it, I will have my brokerage accounts open. I said brokerage accounts, plural, because I use the scanning software to scan multiple markets, including Forex, stock, ETFs. I do some option trading on one platform. I trade Forex on a different platform. So I use different data feeds, different ways to get the data into the candle scanner, or with Trade Navigator, just one data feed company through Trade Navigator. But then I'll have on the second monitor, I'll have my Forex account, I'll have my stock account, and I have a different, like I'll have a long-term account open as well as a shorter-term trading account open. But all of those windows are open on monitor 2. I'm using monitor 1, specifically finding me setups, setting up alerts, always looking for the next trade setup. Alan, tell me if that makes sense. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense for Alan or anybody else that had a similar question, but we get that quite often. Good, Alan says he loves it. It is simple. I keep my trading simple. People are like, well, how come you're not using, indicators A, B, C, D, and E? Because I don't. Everything you saw on that chart, that is my chart. I have volume, I have Bollinger Bands, I have candles with the candle scanner. Sometimes I'll put moving averages on it below. I tend not to use that often because it's kind of built into the Bollinger Band. So I really don't even think about that stuff. I just use it very, very simple. Cynthia's question, do I prefer my preferred platform for Forex or are you asking, Cynthia, do I like Forex or options better? Is that what you're asking? And Cynthia, I'm glad Cynthia says this is really useful, practical info on the trading process. Again, just because I do it doesn't mean it would work for everybody. But I do it because it works for me. It's really that simple. And it's funny because I'll show this to people and somebody will say, well, how come you're not using, and they'll start rattling off different indicators. And I say, because I don't. I don't need to. I don't want to. Doesn't make sense for me. If it makes sense for you and it's working, keep doing it, right? Cynthia, you're asking what Forex trading platform I use? You mean what broker I use? Is that what you're, I just want to make sure I know what you're asking. Well, we always use, Cynthia, companies that partner with our software. So, with the NinjaTrader platform, I tend to use companies that partner broker with NinjaTrader, for example, Forex.com. Okay. Igor, it's just the standard 2 deviations on the Bollinger Band. I'll pull it back up just to show you. The Bollinger Band is set up at 18 and 2. I don't know if you can see that at the top of the screen there. Up here. Oh, now I probably made it more difficult to see. Let's see if I can erase that up here. Okay, 18 and 2. So again, this is simple setup. There's a lot of nuances involved when you get to why would I use a standard criteria hammer compared to a strict criteria hammer, things of that nature. And I can go on and on and on, but I do want to make sure I answer everybody's question. Again, how simple this is. And if it was up to me, I'd keep things as simple as possible and make as much profit as possible with taking as little risk as possible all at the same time, right? If that makes sense to you, do it. If it doesn't make sense to you, don't. It's really that simple. With that said, I went a little bit longer than I expected to. If you have questions, type those in. The promotion is going on. We've had plenty of people taking advantage of it today, with people getting education, some people getting my Candlechart memberships, some people going with our software. Our shipping department is already ready to go with posters and companions to send it out. Bottom line, Steve's been in business for decades. Our goal is to help you be profitable, plain and simple. That's what we're here for. That's what I'm here for. And I enjoy talking trading. Hopefully you can tell and pick up on that. With that said, I'd love to take any other questions. I am going to stop the recording, but I do want to just remind you one last time, our Labor Day promotion, we will get this back out there. Okay? So